who simply cannot quite reach the limits of glorifying the Supreme Lord, and he's going on like this. And when we were going through this section, it reminded me of the first chapter of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and which is composed by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj, and Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, and this is a special situation where the author is a direct disciple of Lord Nityananda himself, who is Lord Balaram, who is Ananta Shesha. So in the beginning, the common courtesy and the common process is to offer prayers and ask for the mercy of the spiritual master. So in the beginning, we have so many prayers for Ananta and Balaram and Lord Nityananda like that. And there is a really, really nectarian verse in there, which goes like this: Maharatna tuyena mahapriyasthane jashoratna bandar Shri Ananta vadane. Lord Ananta's mouths are the storehouse of the gem-like glories of Lord Krishna, for valuable jewels are kept in a most appropriate place. And then he goes on to pray to Lord Ananta, to Lord Balaram, so that those jewels also be manifest within his mouth. And what are those jewels? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the commentary actually says that these jewels which are in the mouths of Ananta Shesh is the Srimad Bhagavatam. That he's always reciting the glories of Lord Krishna, he's always delineating Bhagavata Dharma, and so this is actually the Srimad Bhagavatam. And those who are following in the footsteps of Ananta Shesha and are engaged in Krishna Katha and Kirtan of Krishna, also these jewels become manifest within their mouths. And in this way, the representatives of Ananta Shesha, also their mouths become full with the jewels of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this way, the devotees are able to spread the glories of the Supreme Lord. And here in this verse today, in these 3 verses today, we have a whole list of all of these devotees who, following in the footsteps of Lord Balaram, are engaged in pure devotional service and have actually reached a conclusion as to the supreme and transcendent position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And all of these different personalities in here, you could have whole entire classes on each and every one of them. Not from me, because I don't know most of them. Their names are you'll find them throughout Bhagavatam and throughout other different scriptures. Specifically, famous ones, you have Bhishma, of course Shiva and Brahma and Narada, Hanuman, Vibhishana, Shukadeva Goswami, Arjuna, such great illustrious personalities, Ambarisha, all of these. They will further in the Bhagavatam, more details will be given about all these different personalities, but simply by remembering their name, one's consciousness becomes purified. Just like how the names of Lord Krishna, they completely purify us and relieve us of sinful activity and awaken a desire to serve Krishna. Similarly, his devotees, because they are engaged in purely worshiping Krishna, they start to develop some of his qualities. And so similarly, their names can also be chanted, remembered, meditated upon like that. And you can derive so much benefit by hearing and chanting the names of Lord Krishna's devotees. So I was just telling Nick on this trip that we went to, when I first started reading Prabhupada's books, anytime a Sanskrit like shloka would come up, or like something in the purport, some Sanskrit would come up, or if a name came up, I'd just skip it. I remember Dhritarashtra was like the hardest thing. Like I did not know, like that was too much. So whenever I would see that, I would just think, okay, Mr. D, that's Mr. D. And then I wouldn't even bother to try to read it. I wouldn't even try to understand it, look it up or anything. Just skip past it. And then similarly with all the shlokas and everything. And there's even sections of the Bhagavatam with just super long series of verses, which are just like the family tree in the 9th canto, just the names of the different dynasties, and it's just name after name after name. And it's very easy to think, okay, what's the significance of this? How is this going to help me? What is this? But and similarly, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in his Chaitanya Charitamrita, when he's describing the Chaitanya tree, he gives a whole list of all these names. And before he lists all the names, he says, I'm going to list all of the devotees, and there's so many names might be there, but you should hear these names. These are nectar, and just by hearing about these names, you can become purified. And he himself, out of humility, There's also verses where he tells the reader that just by hearing his names, they get like sinful reactions or something like that. But that, of course, that's his humility. And of course, Krishna Das Kaviraj is a name of Krishna as well. So the devotees generally, especially in our Krishna consciousness movement, devotees are given names of Krishna or of Krishna's devotees. So naturally, just by addressing each other, even though we might say Abhimanyu Sutta, and we don't think about Parikshit Maharaj, we might just think about you. Still, we get benefit because you're a devotee, and it's a name of a devotee. And in this way, there's always a connection to Krishna. So for verses like this, although they might be hard to pronounce, although it might take a long time to get through, it's important to at least hear these names, at least try to chant these names. And if we can't remember exactly who these personalities are, if we don't fully understand all of their glories, that's okay. We can start by hearing and chanting about them. And of course, we should follow in their footsteps, which means that we should try to understand who these people are. Narada Muni is one of the foremost characters that we have here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, Lord Brahma, Prahlad Maharaj. So many of these are very prominent figures that we should understand their role in this Krishna consciousness movement and how they are teaching us how to serve Krishna. So this will be expanded upon in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Basically, Lord Brahma, he already gave a list of all the different, or not all, many different incarnations of the Supreme Lord and their different functions, and he even gets into some of the devotees like Prahlad and Bali Maharaj. And now he's concluding by saying, anyways, he's unlimited, his energies are unlimited, his incarnations are unlimited, and you really can't, if I wanted to tell you everything, then we would just be here eternally and we wouldn't, talk about anything else, which is fine, but, he concludes this chapter. I guess we're getting close to the end. He concludes at least this part of the chapter by saying that the devotees actually, they can understand, they can get entrance into understanding the different energies and incarnations of the Supreme Lord. And they accomplish this by fully imbibing the process of Krishna consciousness. And this is something which is unique and it's something which is different for each and every person, but the general rules and principles and regulations and everything are prescribed more or less for everyone, especially in this Kali Yuga. Lord Chaitanya has given a very simple process by which we can attain love of God. And similarly, all of these different personalities which we're hearing about here, they all have, whether they are eternally liberated souls or whether they are sadhana siddhas who have become perfect through spiritual practice, all of them are completely exemplifying the topmost level of pure love of God, and they are by their activities they are teaching us how we can also accomplish such a thing. And so in this way, all of these different personalities are acharyas. And of course, we also have the 12 Mahajanas, and I didn't take the time to look, but it seems like all of the Mahajanas which are described elsewhere are also present in this list. Parikshit is not here. Other than that, you have Shiva, you have Swayambhuva Manu, Bhishma, Bali, Janak Maharaj. Yamaraj is not here. But nonetheless, we can understand. So these 12 Mahajanas and elsewhere in different scriptures, these are described as being the 12 foremost acharyas who can teach Krishna consciousness. But that doesn't mean that there's just 12. Right from the beginning of the purport, Prabhupada says, all the great devotees of the Lord mentioned above who flourished in the past or flourish in the present, and all the devotees of the Lord who will come in the future are aware of the different potencies of the Lord, including the potencies of his name, qualities, pastimes, entourage, personality, etc. So right from the beginning, Prabhupada is establishing that this isn't all, this isn't everything. These are the personalities who were in the past, some of them might be still present with us, but also there will be many in the future. And of course, Prabhupada is one of those who in the future, at least in terms of when Bhagavatam was recited, one of the most foremost acharyas who is teaching Krishna consciousness. And similarly, Prabhupada is saying that even after me, there will be great acharyas who will teach this message. And these are predicted in the scriptures. These are we see them now walking among us. Even in some of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, we see the potency of the Guru Parampara still carrying through. And we can understand that this is how we receive knowledge of the Supreme Absolute Truth. And this has been going on since time immemorial, and for no reason will it stop right now, especially whenever, only 50 years ago, Srila Prabhupada came to this planet, he came to this country, he came to this city, he gave us these books, and just like in terms of eternality, that was just like a blink of an eye ago. It was so recent. We have such a powerful acharya. And also in the future, we can expect that acharyas will come. Of course, we can't expect that all of them will be anything like Prabhupada. And Prabhupada is a very special acharya. And even in comparison to all other acharyas, he is like a moon amongst stars, and hence the name Prabhupada. He who is at whose feet all other Prabhus, all other great acharyas bow down. And so Prabhupada holds a very, very special position because Prabhupada has completely imbibed the qualities of a pure devotee, and he has specifically applied these qualities in preaching the message of Krishna consciousness, and specifically through his writings. And what we tell a lot of people is that the Srimad Bhagavatam was Prabhupada's life's work. He really placed a lot of emphasis on this Srimad Bhagavatam. So just how Lord Ananta is holding the jewels of the Bhagavatam within his mouth, all of Lord Ananta's manifestations and representatives, spiritual masters, Guru Tattva, they are also holding this jewel within their mouth. And Srila Prabhupada is giving us this Srimad Bhagavatam along with all these other great personalities. So moving on to another aspect of this purport is that the devotees, they think it a waste of time to try to understand these energies of the Lord with their blunt material senses. It's very important to understand that we're not perfect. We're not perfect in any way. There's so many sayings. To err is human. We're all human. If somebody screws up or something, you say, "Oh, anyways, we're all human." To make them feel better. And just the word "human" in that context, it's understood that we're not perfect. And of course, the modern scientists think that human beings, as mammalians, we fall into the same category as all other mammals and animals, and we're just some kind of advanced, evolved species of animal and stuff like that. Of course, the human is superior to the animals and the beastly races, and of course plants and all of these different things. But specifically, human beings are endowed with advanced intelligence, and they can use this intelligence in various different ways. Specifically, intelligence for the conditioned soul is engaged in trying to exploit the resources of the material nature. And we're speaking of Lord Krishna's material energy here today, which is Bhumir, Apo, Nalo, Vayu, Kangmano, Buddhirevacha, Ahankara, Itiyang Me, Bhinna, Prakritirashtadha. So these 8 separated material energies. Then you have Aparayamitas Tvanyang, Prakriting Vidhime Parang, Jiva Bhutang Mahabaho Yayedang Dharyate Jagat. That there's another energy, which is the marginal energy, the jivas, the living entities, who are engaged in trying to exploit this material energy from Krishna. And generally, those who are advanced in knowledge in the human species, they use their intelligence to try to exploit the material nature in very expert ways. So in this way, we have developed so many amazing technologies like oil rigs, like electric cars, like massage chairs, like e-cigarettes, all these different things which we can very intelligently exploit the material nature, and we can very intelligently try to enjoy. And it's in different stratuses. There's different levels of enjoyment. But all of them, you'll find some kind of technology which is meant to enhance our enjoyment in this world. And even whenever the senses start losing their ability to enjoy, we have technology which can revive our senses and which can replace our senses. And Prabhupada, In different places, he talks about how when old men lose their potencies to enjoy sex, they get the genitalia of a monkey surgically implanted in their body so that they can feel the enjoyment of sex again. And it's just ridiculous. So this is the intelligence of conditioned souls. But devotees are not conditioned souls. They use their intelligence to understand, not only understand how energies of the Supreme Lord should be engaged in His service, but they use their intelligence in actually engaging in that service. We're not just idle armchair philosophers where we talk about pure devotional service. The devotees are meant to exemplify pure devotional service. So although all of these different personalities here are great philosophers, great writers and rishis and all these different things, what makes them special and what separates them from all other empirical philosophers and mental speculators is that they have fully applied and fully imbibed the mood, the qualities, the expertise, the intelligence, all the different qualities of a pure devotee. So this is what makes these devotees special, is that they have completely given up the tendency to try to enjoy the material nature, and specifically, even amongst the class of man who has given up the propensity to enjoy, they have given up the propensity to mentally speculate, to enjoy on a mental platform. And they have given up the process of empiric philosophy by which one, using the knowledge acquiring senses, acquires knowledge. And that doesn't mean that they reject the senses, and it doesn't mean that they do not acquire knowledge from the senses, but they do not use their blunt, gross material senses. They do not see this as all in all. Because inherently, the nature of a conditioned soul is that there's 4 defects. There's a tendency to commit mistakes, there's a tendency to be an illusion, there's a tendency to cheat others, and of course there is the imperfect senses. And so we're dealing specifically with this quality of imperfect senses here. And then the modern scientist might say, okay, that's true. My sense of vision is extremely imperfect. I can only see till about right here. And then if you tell a scientist that their vision is imperfect, they'll say that's true, but we have such amazing things like these glasses which give us perfect senses. You say, oh, even that, I still can't see everything perfectly. Then we have telescopes and we have microscopes and all these and they give these as solutions, so-called solutions to our imperfect senses. But because these instruments were created by a conditioned soul who also has the tendency to be an illusion, to make mistakes, to cheat others, then naturally the byproducts of such a thing also have those qualities. They are also imperfect in so many different ways. And so many different times a philosopher comes up with a philosophy, an inventor comes up with an invention, and at the time that they release these to the world, everybody's like, this is perfect, this is really the nectar, this is going to solve all of our problems, this is perfect. And then later on you start to realize all the imperfections. For instance, I remember Shashi Shekhar Prabhu. He gave class at Ponce, and he brought out this point that the whole reason why automotive vehicles were made in the first place was because there was a problem in the cities of horse manure building up in the streets. So there was a problem of pollution from too many horses on the streets, and then of course the horses pass stool, and then you have to deal with that. So they wanted to have a motor car by which it wouldn't leave piles of feces in the road, so you could solve this pollution problem. And then of course, as we've seen so many years later, the pollution problem of the combustion engine vehicles is astronomically more severe than anything that a horse could cause. So the so-called solution for this problem is actually creating more and more problems. And now, of course, they're developing these electric cars, which they say is going to solve our energy problems and solve our pollution problems. But at least at this point, they say that at this point in time, we don't have the technology to make clean electric energy because we still have to burn fossil fuels for them, and even if you get it solar energy, where does the energy come from to make the solar panels? It's all actually still relying on fossil fuels. And they say right now that's how it is, but in the future we're gonna have a solution to this. This ifs, maybes, and buts. In the future this will happen. In the future, it will be like this. So constantly, the mental speculators, the modern scientists, the conditioned souls, the sense enjoyers of this material world are always assuring each other and assuring themselves that there is hope, that there is more enjoyment in the future. That, right now we're enjoying pretty well. We're doing our thing. In the past, they didn't know what they were doing. We're doing much better than they were right now. But in the future, it's going to be even better. And in this way, we're assured of this. And I remember going through school, we're presented with so many ideas of what it's going to be like in the future. And I remember sitting in kindergarten, and they told my class that we would be graduating from high school in 2018, which was 13 years in the future. And I remember sitting there as a 5-6-year-old kid and being 2018, whoa, there's going to be flying cars. There's going to be this is going to be crazy. I'm going to be a grown man, and it's going to be what's it going to be like? And then what to speak of, and then 4 years later, I remember I graduated high school in 2018, and then, I was supposed to graduate college in 2022, and thinking in 2022, it's going to be crazy. I'm going to be over 21, so I can go to bars, that was a big thing, and then you're supposed to go out in the workforce, and there's so many new technology, and I was going to try to get into the technology industry, so there's no telling what it's going to be like. I'm going to learn the skills of the trade and then get into an amazing world of technology where, and thinking of the future like that. And we're always assured of this, especially in the education system. Specifically, we are taught that we should dive into this system head first. And, you can get into all sorts of different conspiracies and things like this about why the general populace is being guided in this way. But basically, it's you can point fingers all you want, but we have convinced ourselves that in the future we will enjoy more. And then whenever we find a nice group of people who think in a similar way, we get together and we become very enthusiastic to accomplish this same goal. The problem with demoniac people, though, is that they might make a big front of accomplishing the same goal where we can all enjoy together. One of the very natures of a demoniac person, of a demon, is that they want it all for themselves. And you can't have a whole group of people who want it all for themselves. There's going to become so many different conflicts, and especially whenever they run into problems like pollution, all these energy problems, all these technological problems. Especially when you run into problems in this endeavor to enjoy, there's so many different strifes come about, financial wars, and of course you have actual warfare happening. And so in this way, the whole endeavor to enjoy with our material senses is completely futile. And an intelligent person can see this and can opt out of this. At least ideally, we will have a society where one who doesn't want to be a materialist can opt out of material life. They can opt out of it. And this is called Varnashrama Dharma. And from the very beginning of life, one is already opted out of material life. They're trained up as a brahmachari. They're taught in the different principles of spiritual life, and they study the shastra. They become preachers. They're trained in this way. But those who don't take it fully seriously, they can opt into material life, and they can enter the grihastha ashram, and they can go on in this way. But also in such a society, at the end of life, one can opt out of it as well. Unfortunately, in the society that we live in today, from the very beginning of life, whether you signed up for it or not, you're opted into full-blown material enjoyment. They're feeding babies, they get meat powder, and they put water in it, and then they feed meat powder to the babies. Yeah. I mean, a lot of baby food, it has meat in it. They can't chew the tough tissues of the flesh of the animals, so they blend it up for them and powder it down and then make it into a nice, easy to digest and everything like that. I mean, probably everybody in America, they from the moment that they're out of the womb, they're already engaged in so much sinful activity, and so from the very beginning of life, they've opted into this material, nonsensical civilization. And then one who is intelligent, and one who is fortunate, one who is bhagyavan, He is given an opportunity to associate with the pure devotees of the Lord. And out of the mercy of the pure devotees of the Lord, we're given entrance into Krishna consciousness. And so many of us, most of us, all of us are actually receiving this mercy in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books. Somehow, by our good fortune, of course it's not our good fortune, we have been given this good fortune. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, we have been given Prabhupada's books, and by the mercy of Prabhupada, through his books, we are given an opportunity to opt out of this material situation. And what does this mean? That doesn't just mean that we crawl into a cave, we go to the forest, we pluck all of our eyebrows, and we completely withdraw our senses like a tortoise, like how Krishna talks about in the Bhagavad Gita. It's not that we simply do that. We engage our senses and we engage our intelligence and we engage our mind in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the recommended process in this age. Specifically beginning, and the most important thing, is chanting the holy names of the Lord. There's this verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, Ada Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grahyam Indriyayi Sevan Mukhe Hijivado Swayam Eva Sparat Yadaha. So the one cannot, it actually explains this very, very nicely. Let me see if I can pull it up. Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Indriyayi. Okay, yeah. So, here's Prabhupada's translation. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for their transcendental loving service unto him. So in this way, by the process of Krishna consciousness, and by engaging the senses, beginning with the tongue, jivadi, beginning with the tongue, then one can actually begin to understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we have Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yang Shyama Sundarama Chintaguna Swarupam Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. So this Shyama Sundar, we offer our respectful obeisance to Shyama Sundar, who has many varieties of unlimited energies. And the devotees of Shyama Sundar, with the eye of devotion, they can observe the Lord, which resides in the heart of hearts, in their heart of hearts. So it's a very nice verse which is explaining how by anointing one's eyes with love of God, he can actually begin to understand. He can see the truth. He can see reality how it is. And this can't be accomplished by using our senses. It has to, by using our senses alone. You know, using the senses is there, but they have to be purified. They have to be spiritualized. It's just like when you have fire and iron. You know, the iron acts as iron, fire acts as fire. But whenever you put them together, the iron develops the same qualities as the fire. So then whenever you touch iron to something, it becomes fire as well. So similarly, whenever we engage our senses in spiritual activities, those senses become spiritualized, and then all the activities of the senses no longer become a cause for bondage, but they become a cause for liberation, and they no longer become a cause for avidya or ignorance, but become a cause for vidya or jnana, and you can actually begin to directly perceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pratyakshavagaman dharmyam is actually direct feeling and understanding and realization of God. So it's very, very powerful. You know, just by chanting Hare Krishna, you can begin to have actual direct perception of God. There was a new bhakta at the program who was like, I heard he was going around to all the devotees and asking them all their experiences of how they've seen God and all, you know, he asked Maharaj and everything like that. But it's something you just have to experience, really. You can begin to describe it, you can glorify the process of Krishna consciousness, but it's like a bee trying to taste honey from outside of the jar. Unless you really go inside of the jar, you can't taste it. So unless you really plug into the process, you really can't taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness. So sorry, I didn't mean to take so long. We talked about Butler, Pennsylvania for a little bit before. So I'll end there, and if there's any short comments or questions, we can take them.
Hare Krishna. There's this verse of Narottam Das Thakur that he wrote, that he says, Vaishnavera padadhuli tahi mora sthana keli tarpana mora Vaishnavera nam vichara kariya mane bhakti rasa aswadhane madhyastha Sri Bhagavata Puran. He says that I enjoy taking bath in the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas, and this chanting the names of the Vaishnavas are my offering of oblations. I have concluded that to relish the mellows of Srimad Bhagavatam is the best medium. So like these names I was thinking.
Yeah.
In relation to the this subject of trying to, that our limited senses can't completely comprehend God. Sometimes it can seem like that when you're reading the Bhagavatam, you're trying to grasp everything, wrap your head around, everything Prabhupada's saying. And I just came across, I think, I don't know where I read it, but one of the devotees asked Prabhupada why he writes these books, what the point is. A few of them guessed some different things, but he said to convince you to chant Hare Krishna is like the essence of why he's writing these books. So just
there's devotees, that they're so scholarly. They have a huge library in their house. They know so many different things. They read so much. And is chanting. Third is reading. Service. Third is service. Is reading after service? Anyways, reading is service. Anybody else? Anybody else have anything over here? Yes, bro.
Also, like sometimes when people ask about experiences, I'm really reluctant to tell, like even if you've had experiences, it's like very reluctant to tell these people anything because they want to make it cheap. It really is, that's what it is. When they're asking like that and over, it's like, it will come, but they don't want to take the hard work that it takes. They just want something cheap.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to be very careful when people ask those sort of questions because it's like, we stand by the standard what Srila Prabhupada told us. Chant, wake up early, and don't take karmic grains, and you'll experience what you need to experience. We don't have to tell them all out like different experiences we have in our Krishna consciousness that are quite wild sometimes. We can, but it's like they think they have to experience that in order to take up Krishna consciousness. But that experience will come in the future when you take it up seriously. It's not that we got those experiences before we did anything in our life. We actually made a commitment to Krishna, and then Krishna gave that some level of vision of Krishna consciousness as being like the absolute truth to us. So it's coming as we're practicing more and more. So these people want to take it cheaply, but we should simply, that is the secret actually, do those things. But they want some euphoric idea of I saw light and I experienced something within my heart and all this sort of thing. So just careful.
Yeah, of course we have the offenses to the holy name. One of them is preaching the glories of the holy name to the unfaithful people, the atheistic people. So it's actually offensive.
So how do you, in that same situation, someone is, they don't have an experience of this process, right? So, and, it seems like, chanting, taking prasadam, like, it's very foreign to them that this is going to benefit them, I guess. So how do you balance that? Like,
well, what I would do if somebody started asking me, like, what happens when you chant Hare Krishna? Like, can you see God and stuff like this? Instead of like not necessarily speaking about exactly what's happening with you, you can Tell them stories about devotees. In Bhagavad we have Dhruva Maharaj. He went out to the forest. He did austerities. He chanted Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then God literally came there to him, and he saw God, and he got blessed by God. You can tell them about these different stories, but by hearing about other devotees, they can develop some faith. Even like Srila Prabhupada, just by hearing about the life of Srila Prabhupada, you can see directly how God was playing a part in every single thing that he was doing. He was completely imbued with God consciousness, So tell them stories about Prabhupada, tell them stories about crazy things that have happened on book distribution, things like this. And whenever they have some level of faith, then it'll be easier for them to take prasad and to chant and things like that. Yes.
One important aspect about that is this questions, chanting and all this, how will they be able to accept it? It's we have to make sure that we, even sometimes when it's difficult, we don't stray away from that and think that we can come up with some other process by which we can introduce people to Krishna consciousness. And we just stick to it. It doesn't, for us, it's just this is what we're going to do, this is what Acharya told us to do. Even if people don't come, at least I can perfect my life by following the instruction of my Acharya. And that's ultimately our desire. And even if nobody comes, it's okay, but I'm going to preach the same thing. I'm not, we can, there's some ground to that, but it's just we shouldn't think that we shouldn't introduce chanting and we shouldn't introduce the philosophy and all this. We still preach the message as it is. It may be done in more strategic ways, but it's just important. Sometimes that happens in devotional societies, that devotees get desperate in order to bring people in. And then along with that, they say, maybe we'll introduce this, maybe we should do it like this. But it's very important for our own, saving ourselves, that we don't stray away from that, because that becomes Guru Aparad, to stray away from the instructions of the Acharya. And then it turns into so many things, you don't know where to stop it. So it's always very important to keep that one pointed direction, that okay, this is what we're going to follow at all times.
Did the Matris have any questions? Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.